Max Scoville here for Rev3 Games, and I'm here today to talk to you about a particular game called Saints Row 4. As you might be able to tell, it is the fourth game in the Saints Row series, and there seems to be a certain amount of excitement about it. I think it's kind of a questioning thing. We're not sure if this is going to be a good game or a bad game. I was a fan of Saints Row the Third. I was a little bit disappointed compared to Saints Row 2, which I thought was a much broader game, much bigger in terms of scale. Had no idea what I was in for going into Saints Row 4, but here's my opinion. Let's take a look. Let's recap, shall we? In the first Saints Row, players were introduced to the 3rd Street Saints, and they were tasked with retaking the city of Stillwater from rival gangs. In the 2008 sequel, they did it all over again, except this time the criminal activity escalated from the streets to the upper echelons of corporate corruption. By the time Saints Row the Third rolled around, the Saints had become celebrities, with their own clothing line and energy drink. So the big question is, how do you top that? No matter how eloquently I explain it, the premise of Saints Row 4 is going to sound completely idiotic. You, the leader of the Saints, have been elected President of the United States of America, and then aliens invade, and the intergalactic warlord known as Zinyak has captured all of your friends, the Saints, trapping them in a virtual reality construct resembling their home city of Steelport. You manage to escape Zinyak's clutches and hijack a spaceship, and from there the rest of the game is spent preparing to take revenge on Zinyak by completing missions both in the so-called real world as well as in Zinyak's virtual Steelport. Of course, since it's a computer simulation of the real world, normal rules don't apply, and thanks to the help of the Saints hacker, Kinsey Kenner, you're able to bend the laws of physics. So, in a nutshell, Saints Row 4 is about getting superpowers. At a glance, I can see how Saints Row 4 might look like a glorified DLC or half-hearted cash-in that reskins chunks of Saints Row the Third, but it is a full new game. Most of the mechanics from the previous game are still present. It's still an open-world sandbox action game, and you have an arsenal of weapons at your disposal, and any vehicle you come across is yours for the taking, and just about everything is absurdly customizable. You complete a variety of missions and activities that usually involve traveling to a point on the map and killing some dudes, and while all of this might seem familiar, it plays completely differently when you have superpowers. In addition to running faster than anything else on the map and leaping over buildings with ease, you're also able to freeze, incinerate, levitate, and shrink your opponents. New powers are unlocked as the game's story missions are completed, and all of these powers can be upgraded. Power-ups are purchased by collecting and trading in blue glowing things called clusters, which are just scattered around Steelport on rooftops. And don't be surprised if you find yourself compulsively going after everyone that enters your field of view, backburnering your main objective, partially because you want to upgrade your powers, but also because it's just fun to go bounding from rooftop to rooftop, collecting shiny things. As weird as it might sound, my favorite addition to Saints Row 4 is just basic traversal. One of the more tedious aspects of sandbox games is needing to get from one place to another, but when you can move faster than anything else on the map and leap tall buildings in a single bound and run up walls and walk on water, it turns even the most irrelevant fetch quests into a thrilling experience, and that makes a really big difference. While it certainly isn't the first game to give players superpowers in an open world sandbox, Crackdown, Prototype, and Infamous have all tried their hands, Saints Row 4 is definitely one of the most enjoyable. And hey, if you get tired of running and jumping, you can still hijack a car by karate kicking through the windshield and driving off, so there's that. Beyond the superpowers, another addition to Saints Row 4 is weapon customization, and while this is mostly just cosmetic, there's something really delightful about trading your machine gun in for a super soaker that shoots lasers, or deciding that you'd rather dual-wield 2 of Han Solo's blasters than carry around normal pistols that shoot bullets. Unfortunately, the selection of other types of character customization is largely recycled from the last game, with the exception of some new costumes and the ability to adjust the pitch of your character's voice. One of my biggest disappointments in Saints Row the Third, compared to 2, was less options when customizing your character's outfits, and somehow the wardrobe in 4 feels even more limited.
I never want to be known as the president who sits in her ivory tower, ignoring her.
I never want to as a nation.
Sure, there are some new additions like a Minecraft head and a knockoff Boba Fett outfit, but if you're just trying to make an in-game version of, say, you or your boss or a coworker, you might be disappointed by the selection. Probably the worst thing that Saints Row 4 has going for it is its visuals. Portions of it are meant to look a bit glitchy to fit with the virtual reality aesthetic of the game, but other parts look noticeably rough around the edges. Graphically, I'd even say it's a step down from the last game, but I imagine that certain accommodations had to be made to allow for superpowers. Another complaint that some people might have is how dark the game is. Until Zinyak is defeated, Steelport is in perpetual nighttime, which can get a bit tiring to look at. Upon completing the game, players get the ability to adjust the day-night cycle, but until then it's a lot of dark red and purple. The mission structure in Saints Row 4 is rather shamelessly lifted from Mass Effect 2 of all games. Your hub world is your stolen spaceship, which is thoroughly reminiscent of the Normandy, and from there you can jack into Zinniac's virtual steel port whenever you like and cause mayhem to your heart's content. Zinniac has the other members of the Saints locked away in virtual recreations of their own personal hells, and most of the story missions revolve around you traveling into the minds of returning characters like Pierce and Shondi. After liberating each member of your gang, they'll start hanging around on your spaceship, where you can either romance them. It's only August, but I would say that trying to seduce Vice President Keith David is already one of my gaming highlights of 2013.
I know you want to, but I don't.
Or you can take them on a loyalty mission, a la Mass Effect 2. Completing loyalty missions with each gang member will earn them superpowers, so if you need a sidekick, you can just summon one of your super homies from your phone at any point during the game.
Assign you all rights.
There are activities scattered around the map, most of which are familiar, but which become an entirely new experience with the addition of superpowers. For instance, the hilarious slapstick ragdoll violence of insurance fraud, where you try to rack up money by bouncing off as many vehicles as possible, is greatly improved when you're able to hurl yourself into an oncoming car at super speed or leap 100 feet into the air only to go plummeting into traffic. Other activities include Mech Mayhem, which is like Tank Mayhem, except you're in a giant goddamn robot because of course there's a giant goddamn robot in the game. Why wouldn't there be one? Unlike in previous Saints games, where the activities were strictly pass-fail, Saints Row 4 awards gold, silver, and bronze medals based on how well each one is completed. A bronze is still a pass, so if you're terrible at a particular activity, you're not totally stuck. I'll say this right now. Saints Row 4 is an immensely silly game. At no point does it take itself seriously, so if you're one of those people who thought that Saints Row 3 was too goofy and thought it was stupid, this isn't the game for you. However, if you were a fan of the last Saints Row's more over-the-top approach, or more recently enjoyed Far Cry 3's direct-to-video sequel Blood Dragon, then you'll probably have a blast, because Saints Row 4 is really hilarious, especially if you're familiar with the characters from the earlier games. I think it's great that video games have grown up a bit, and we can get thought-provoking and emotional, narrative-driven interactive experiences, but sometimes I just want to mess around, and it's great to see a sandbox game that remembers what a sandbox is. It's a place for dirty children to play with their little toy cars and missile-launching action figures and make a mess. It hit me about halfway through Saints 4 that I was basically playing the video game equivalent of a Leslie Nielsen movie or a spoof comic in Cracked magazine. Other media might get a pass in the name of comedy. I mean, nobody complains about the special effects in Spaceballs not being on par with Star Wars, but video games are interactive, and no matter how funny a game is, no amount of laughs is going to compensate for it being buggy, broken, or otherwise frustrating to play. Thankfully, Saints Row 4's irreverent lampooning is planted firmly on a technically sound foundation with some thoroughly enjoyable game mechanics. It's rough around the edges here and there, but that's not the kind of thing you're apt to notice when you're blowing up cop cars with a gun that shoots dubstep music. The Saints Row series might have gotten its start as a tough guy crime simulator GTA knockoff, but it's since turned into something else entirely, and I'm absolutely dying to see what direction the series goes next. In the meantime, the PC version of Saints Row 4 supports mods, so if it wasn't weird enough already, it's only gonna get weirder. Saints Row 4 is a 4 out of 5. So there's that. I was actually really surprised by Saints Row 4. It's a lot of fun. You should check it out. Thank you guys for watching. By all means, leave some comments, ask me questions. I'm happy to answer some stuff. You can find me on Twitter. I'm Max Scoville. Now, let's thank our sponsor, Full Sail University. Playing video games is fun, but have you ever considered creating them? With Full Sail University, you can turn your passion into a career with game degree programs in programming, art and animation, story creation, producing games, and more. Full Sail grads have worked on super mega huge titles like Red Dead Redemption, the Call of Duty series, and more. There's an online program too. Full Sail's game art and game design bachelor's degree programs utilize Full Sail's immersive education platform, which will let you earn your degree from anywhere in the world. For more information, head over to fullsail.edu/rev3games.